Hey there, everybody. I am Jeff. This is Tabletop Toolbox, and I'm excited to celebrate today episode number 48 of the Weekly Ratchet. That's right. It has been 1 year for this board game themed variety show, and I'm happy you're here to celebrate with us. So let's go ahead and get to it here on the Weekly Ratchet. Hey there, folks, and welcome back to the Weekly Ratchet. As always, I hope you've had a fantastic week of playing games with family and or friends. And folks, this is it. This is the 1 year anniversary of this show. The first episode was February 8th of last year, and this has been a lot of fun. Now, this is going to be a pretty normal episode. Stick around for the end for some last-minute little celebrations. But real quick, I want to let you folks know that I am just a hair behind schedule this week with filming, and there is a special reason why, and he just jumped down. All right, let's see if this works. This is Douglas. He's going to make himself here at home. It's okay. Can I just put you in the frame here for a moment? Scoot you around, say hey to everybody. Say hey, don't put snags in my cloth here. All right, there you go. There you go. It's okay. There you go. This is Douglas. Douglas is a Manx, as you can tell. For those of you who remember, back in November, we lost a cat by the name of Tinny, who was also a Manx. And I don't remember if I covered it in that story, but Tinny had a brother that I had also named Douglas, and he looked just like this guy. I'm sure Douglas is also no longer around, but this guy showed up to a small family down in South Carolina, and they couldn't find a home for him, couldn't find anyone to claim him. And so last Monday, I drove down 5 hours one way to go and get him. How you doing, buddy? And anyways, we took him to the vet. He's got a clean bill of health, a couple little quality of life things that we're going to fix up for him. But then we went to our cabin in Shenandoah and just kind of hung out, me and him, for the week. A little bit of daddy kitty bonding. So anyways, our new addition to the family, we're all kind of happy here. We're still trying to get the hang of each other a little bit, but you are a good little boy, aren't you? Anyways, let's go ahead and get to the episode. As well, you've met my new cat, so let's talk about some new games. I hope that came out okay, because I only had one take to do that. You never really get to script too well with a cat. Douglas is doing really well. He is a very affectionate cat. Some of the pictures that I probably showed already are just him kind of curling up with me at the cabin. He's been a little more grumpy the past couple of days. He hasn't felt that good. He's got some guests hanging out in his gut and in his ear, actually. But we're dealing with it. We're getting through it. He has much improved the past couple of days. And I think that once he kind of gets settled, he's going to have a really, really good life. I think he's going to be a phenomenal addition to our family. So thanks for letting me have that moment, because it was really important for me to get to share that with this group. Anyways, only one game has come in here in the past week. Obviously, I've been out. This is the Planet Unknown Supermoon expansion. Planet Unknown is a polyomino game. It's probably my favorite of the polyomino genre, to be honest with you. I'm just not a huge fan of that style of game. They're fine, but I always kind of feel like they try to do too much outside of the just polyomino mechanism. This game is pretty straightforward. You're just placing out these tiles. They let you move up tracks. And then there's a lot of kind of stuff around those tracks that kind of gets to be a little bit more interesting. So I enjoy this game. This expansion adds these moon tiles, a couple other little things, but really not a whole lot here in this box. And I got to play this recently, so I'll chat about it more here coming up. That is it for new games. So that means it is time to get to Question of the Week. All right, here we go with Question of the Week. I wanted to have a little bit of fun this week with another Ask Me Anything to sort of celebrate the 1 year anniversary of the Ratchet. Now, I did have decent views to last week's episode, but I did not get a lot of responses to this. And I'm going to just real quick encourage folks, hey, I get 100-something views every week. Give me some comments, give me some feedback, answer some questions of the week, participate however you would like to. We would love to hear from some extra folks at this part of the episode. But I'm going to try and keep this one fairly quick. I tend to make these go a little long. Maybe even filming this a second time to try and keep it a little shorter. Who knows? But anyways, let me go ahead and get to the list. Up first was Teshra, who asked me to name a game that I have played a number of times and I'm itching to get back to the table, either because it is fun or because I want to explore new strategies. I'll give you two of these here real quick. The first one, both of these I'm going to chat about here in just a couple of minutes, but I would love to understand Deep Shelf. I think it is a good game, but I cannot crack the code. I am having a real tough time with that game. And then I also played recently the Rocket Men Target Jupiter expansion. I'll chat about that one here in a moment. And that one is just a lot of fun. I didn't get to play with all of the expansion content last time we played this, and so I'm hoping to get it back to the table because I just really, really enjoy that game. So that is that list. Up next was Rain Kruger, who asked me how many of the top 100 games on Board Game Geek have I not yet played, and which of those do I want to play the most. So I had to dig into this here real quick. There are of those 100 games, there are actually 42 of which I haven't played, and I was actually surprised that number was that high. I'll also say that list has changed around a good bit just in the past handful of months. I saw that White Castle is now number 100. How? I do not understand that. I mean, the game was okay, but top 100 content? I don't think so. Anyways, there are a lot of similar games on this list. So I have played Wingspan, but not Wingspan Asia. I have played Gaia Project, but not Terra Mystica or Age of Innovation. Very similar games. All three of them are on that list. I have played and owned Star Trek Frontiers. I haven't played Mage Knight. They're basically, Star Trek is a reskin of Mage Knight. And I've played Pandemic, but none of the legacy games. I'm really just not a big fan of the Pandemic system myself. There's also a couple games on that list that I'm just not interested in. Anything Cthulhu or horror. So there's the Elder Gods. There's, I think, Cthulhu Death May Die. There is the other card game, Arkham Horror, that I'm just not interested in. Also Twilight Struggle, that sort of Cold War political side. I get that it's really popular, totally fine. Just not something I'm really interested in. But I do have a couple games that I would love to check out. Lords of Waterdeep, Le Havre, Dominant Species, and Age of Innovation in that sort of Gaia project. And Terra Mystica sort of trilogy. I'd love to try out the Age of Innovation, the newest one. So I couldn't really pick one of those four, but those four are definitely ones I would like to try and check out maybe this year at the Dice Tower Retreat. CR Poll asked one or two questions. I'm not really entirely sure, but he asked, which game am I disappointed that I don't like more than how I feel about it now, adding maybe a game I liked a lot in the past but don't now. So I'm not exactly sure if that was two different questions. Feel free to kind of clarify there if you'd like. But I will definitely say, and I had to think about this one a good bit, but there is one game that I can definitely tell you I started off liking and now I pretty much loathe, and that is Quacks of Quedlinburg. The first time I played it, I won, had a really good time with it, and so I was like, oh, this game is great. I was still kind of new. It was one of the first games that I played here in town with other folks, and that was definitely an era when I was getting to play a lot of new stuff with new people, and everything was exciting, so I was kind of buying everything that I played. And the more and more I got into it, the less and less and less I liked it. And I realized just how little strategy there really is in that game. I bought it, I blinged it all out, I 3D printed stuff for it, and I got rid of it. So that was Quacks of Quedlinburg. Jeremy Brooks asked a few questions, first asking what I felt was missing or could have been improved upon in the content creation hemisphere that inspired Tabletop Toolbox. I could go on way too long about this. What I will say is that one of the big inspirations when I started doing content was Shut Up and Sit Down. I really love their channel. Now lately they've gotten a little more kooky than what I'm kind of interested in. I kind of feel like they're not really telling us, sorry, phones are blinging off the hook here. Anyways, they're not really telling us a lot about the games anymore. They're being really kind of campy and whatever, which is fine. I mean, I still like their stuff. But anyways, I don't really think that I ever got there. I don't have that British humor, and I didn't really want to just copy them, but there have been some comments on content that I put out on the Dice Tower saying, this is like Shut Up and Sit Down quality stuff. He's like, Shut Up and Sit Down to the West, and those comments really cheer me up. So the other thing was that I wanted, the whole idea of Tabletop Toolbox was, I used to work on cars, I used to be a mechanic, and I wanted to kind of marry that with board gaming. I wanted to be able to fix games and fix gaming. And to me, that originally kind of meant, I'm going to give people new ideas for gaming, and I'm going to, come up with new components or maybe even house rules. I don't know, whatever. And that never really materialized. But on the same token, I realized that what we really could use in the sort of content creation universe, if you will, is just more professional content, better looking stuff, better sounding stuff that's a little more thought out, not just sort of random chaotic blathering like I kind of feel Rado does. No offense to the guy. It's just not a channel that I have enjoyed. I wanted that professionalism. And so I think that that's kind of what I've done is, maybe Tabletop Toolbox didn't quite become what I thought it was going to be. But on the same token, I think I'm still improving the game for folks by just making really good content about those games. And if it helps you to avoid a purchase or make a purchase that works for you, then maybe I still kind of accomplished my mission. Anyways, next, Jeremy asked how hard it is to manage family, career, and content creation, adding that there's only 24 hours in a day. Boy, you are telling me. We'll talk about my job here in just a moment, but it's a fairly relaxed position. I'm certainly busier sometimes, but not busier other times. And so sometimes I can kind of sneak off to do a quick little filming or do a little bit of editing and kind of make up some time here and there. So I don't have to sit at a desk all day, every day. That certainly helps. As far as my family goes, man, my wife is just incredible at keeping things together. I definitely need to do a bit more around the house, but we kind of understand each other. And, I definitely try to get family time in. And sometimes that also gets to include gaming, which is nice. So we can play games together. That kind of helps me to put together content, or at least, sort of make that next step into content creation, having played the games. I did have a bunch of other hobbies that have kind of fallen off the radar. I've got a couple of old cars sitting beneath my feet that haven't started in over a year. I need to get them running. I used to do a lot of beer brewing. I actually haven't done that in a long time. It wasn't really board gaming that kind of killed that. 3D printing, I've got to manage my printer. I've got to do some maintenance on my printer. I just haven't had the time. And I do still set aside some time for video games. But yeah, I'd love to have a couple more hours in a day. That is definitely for sure. Speaking of which, Tony Lawhorn said, "What is it that I do for work?" Adding, "If this is something you must kill me if you tell me. My name is Mike DeLisio." I got bad news for you, Mike. I thought that was pretty funny. I covered this in a previous episode a couple of months ago over the summer or fall last year when I went to go out and look at a couple of wind turbines out in the ocean. I am a master project scheduler, which is in the project controls universe, which is kind of parallel to project management. I am not a project manager. I do not want to be, but my job is kind of keeping track of all the things that have to happen, usually to build something big, a big building. I've done power plants, I've done paper machines. Right now, obviously doing a wind farm. I have done some IT work, worked for the U.S. Department of Justice Antitrust Division for a hardware software rollout. I also did a couple of engineering projects for natural gas utility firms and a little bit of construction management, but it was mostly engineering for that particular job. But a lot of my focus is in utility and construction and just sort of timing everything out. The great thing about what I do is that nobody understands it. So I can kind of like do as poorly or as well as I would like. It's really the same thing. Also, I get to report bad news, but I never have to fix it. I'm always the one who says, "You're screwing up, you're in big trouble, everything's falling apart. Good luck." And I get to just kind of walk away. So that's kind of the fun thing. Other than that, job's super boring, and I love board games. Ryan Combs had an interesting one, asking why I thought so few channels use swear words, adding that he thinks my sparse use of language makes my content feel grounded. Well, first of all, thank you, you son of a... No, I'm just kidding. Every time that I've kind of like walked through my thoughts on this, I've taken way too long. So I have a couple of notes here. I'm going to try and stick to them. Gaming has a real wide audience, right? And I'm talking different personalities. I'm even talking religious views and especially age ranges. And so I may have someone who's watching my content on a phone or on the TV at home, and you poor thing. But, if all of a sudden I just drop an F-bomb while there are 3-year-olds walking through the room, that might, cause a little bit of friction. And so I work in construction. I can curse like a sailor. For one thing, my brother and my sister are sailors. But I know that there's a time and a place, and I feel like it is easier for me to kind of mostly stay on the clean side of things, and then that way I just don't have to worry about it. There are times when I definitely want to kind of like let loose a little bit, and I have to hold back. But again, it's just because I think it's easier for me to get folks and not have to worry about it, like, oh, is this content inappropriate, whatever. There's a channel called Two Bats Gaming all the content's still out there, but he hasn't done any videos in years, and he had some really, really phenomenal board game content. He did a review of Fallout, the board game, by Fantasy Flight that was just I mean, it was a cinematic work of art, but he threw some F words in there, a couple things. I mean, sporadically enough, but it was entertaining and it was well done, and he just vanished. And I would kind of love to reach that level, but I need to get my numbers up. I need to get more people, hanging out before, because I think CR Poll's comment to your question even kind of shows that there are some people who they're just not going to watch that stuff. And I get it. So again, it's just kind of easier to walk that line and sort of stay on the positive side of it. And then, maybe as things kind of evolve, I can, maybe I can do some tabletop toolbox after dark. I don't know. I've always been kind of amused by that kind of stuff. Anyways, interesting question. All right, Jeremy Brooks came back with a few more questions saying that most everyone knows I love space games, but what is my favorite mechanism? That's a pretty easy one. I love deck building. I love engine building. I love the idea of sort of starting weak and ending up this big powerhouse. I love that in my video games. Those RPG online games, kind of like Skyrim and Fallout, and I still cannot remember the name of the space one. I don't know why I cannot remember the name of that game. Starfield. That's it. You start off with just little rubber band shooters, and next thing you know, you're just wielding all these big weapons and flying big ships or just whatever. And I love that progression. I feel like deck builders and engine builders kind of give me that. In that tabletop space. Jeremy also asked if I would rather play an okay game with amazing components or an amazing game with just okay components. An easy answer here again, definitely the latter. I think that there are plenty of games out there, and I've done some reviews of them where they were just really lackluster games with over-the-top components. And I'm looking at you, Steam Up, and Globetrotting. Globetrotting actually reviewed over in the Dice Tower and kind of ripped that one to shreds. Steam Up I was going to review. Tom and the gang there in the Dice Tower already kind of did a lackluster review, and as he put it, he didn't want to kick the dead horse anymore, so he kind of told me to hold off on that one. But yeah, bad games with great components actually annoy me more than a really, really good game but with lackluster components. I mean, some of the WizKid stuff on like Star Trek, Fleet Command, phenomenal game, terrible components. So that's a good example there. Ryan Combs had another question asking if there is a mechanism or theme that when I see, I think I will immediately like. And the answer to that now actually is no. I would have said, hey, if it's a deck builder in space, I'll jump on it. If it's a set in space, I'll jump on it. But, a really good example there is a game of Arcs. It's a trick-taking game, but it's a space game, and I thought, I got to play Arcs. It's a space game, right? It's got really cool components. It looks really neat. But I knew Cole Worley designs, Root and Pax Pamir, and that kind of stuff that they don't sit well with me. And so I've done some more homework into it, and I literally have decided I do not want to play that game. I think it is best if I just avoid that game. Someday maybe I'll get a chance if I know I'm with the right people who can kind of be patient with me as I get through that, but I just don't see that happening. No, I won't just jump to anything. I have sort of learned, and I think this question comes up here in a little bit, I try to make sure I've done my homework. Even if I think it is a mechanism or a theme that I'll really like, I just double check. Just a little extra effort there. Simulation Chris asked if I'd ever thought of designing a game and what would it be about. We actually chatted about this back in episode 11. I do have two ideas. I think I only covered one of them in that episode, and that was that I want to do a game on the Curse of Oak Island TV show on the History Channel, where they are digging for treasure on Oak Island off the coast of Nova Scotia, and they've been digging for years. They have found nothing really except for just some trinkety stuff here and there, and none of it from underground, really. They have found a bunch of old wood, which was really, really interesting, but it's like they're going the worst way about actually finding anything. They're just digging holes in the ground and not doing a proper excavation, not doing any underground cameras or anything like that. Idiots. But anyways, what's fascinating to me about it is, and I'll make this quick, is that they'll probably never find anything. No real buried treasure has ever been discovered on Earth except for the Finn treasure that was only buried for about 10 years. It was found in 2020. It was buried in 2010. And it was literally like a challenge. Like this guy, he had the internet, right? He put this thing out on the internet, go find my treasure. But nothing from that, sort of ancient era pirates, whatever, none of it's ever been found. Nothing. But that show goes on. And so how are they getting that funding? How are they keeping that interest going? How are they keeping the network ratings up? That's kind of what I want to do with the game. I don't want to make a treasure hunting game. There's plenty of those out there. I want to actually make this sort of marketing economy business game where you're looking for a treasure that you would never actually find. I thought that'd be kind of neat. Another game, and I got to skim the surface of this one real quick. Long before I was really board gaming, back when I was dating, my wife and I were together, we would go to Spencer's Gifts in that thing called the mall. Do you remember any of that? And in the back of that store were some questionable stuff. And there were a number of games, and there are other places that you can get these. And they're sort of like board games or card games. There's kind of a variety of things. And they're all kind of geared towards adults. They're maybe a little intimacy themed. Maybe they're just kind of themed on trying to help couples sort of connect, maybe, have a little intimacy, whatever. And they're usually all terrible. I actually have a good number of these things. They're not in this room, but I have a good number of those games. And I've always wanted to try and do something along those lines, but make a good game out of it. Good components, a good story, sort of an actual goal that you're working towards. I've wanted to make something that's a little bit more inclusive. Almost all this stuff is geared towards male-female partners. I wanted to do something maybe a little modular where, a male-male partner or a female-female partnership could, they could buy the base game, get a module specific to their relationship type, and be able to play this. And I actually have some ideas. I already have some card content that I've kind of put together for this. I can't show you any of it. But the problem is, of course, it's just such a taboo subject. And I don't think it should be, because this isn't something that nobody does, right? It's universal. And I would love to explore it, and I'd love to do something that would really make people kind of go like, wow, this is something we just never thought about, and it's good. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I've actually been thinking quite a bit over the past couple of months of trying to get back into it, even if just something for my wife and I to kind of have some fun with. So who knows? We'll see. Let's see. I got lost. Here we are. Derek asked a couple of questions, telling me to pick my favorite. Well, I'm going to go ahead and run through them all. He asked, what's been the most challenging aspect of establishing a channel? What has been the most rewarding? What keeps me in the hobby? And how have my tastes in games changed since I got into the hobby? By far the most challenging is just getting the numbers, right? Getting the subscribers, getting the views. In fact, it's a bit ironic because here I am answering questions on a video that I got very little comments on, and it actually made me start thinking about stopping doing the show. I'm not going to stop doing the show, but it's like this, it's just this push and pull, right? I get 200 something views and then I get 150, and it's like, God, what am I doing wrong? So it's just frustrating. What's the most rewarding is the very opposite. It's when I go to the conventions and I'm walking through and I just make eye contact with someone and he goes, oh, Jeff, I love your stuff. And I think, crap, do I know this guy? Should I remember this guy's name? And I'm like, oh, hey. And he goes, no, you don't know me. I'm a big fan. And I'm like, thank you, man. And I've learned to just keep it brief, say thank you, walk away, so I don't talk someone's ear off. But that has definitely been just rewarding to experience over the years. What keeps me in a hobby is the games. I love the strategies. I love the components. I love the sort of puzzles of trying to figure these things out. I love getting to get together with friends and spend time with my family. And I love the games. I could quit content creation and I would still play games, no doubt about it. And as far as how have my tastes changed, they haven't. I got into board gaming because I discovered that there was more than just Risk and Monopoly. I think that's how a lot of us have gotten here. And immediately when I realized that, when I learned the word Eurogame, and I immediately started to go and look for games in the themes and such that I was already interested in from video gaming. So space stuff, without a doubt, business management stuff, city builders like SimCity. If you look at these shelves, you'll see a lot of games similar to stuff that I played on Nintendo, Xbox, PC, Steam, whatever over the years. They're just here in cardboard form. So I can say that my tastes really haven't changed. What has changed is, kind of like I said a moment ago, knowing what I should and shouldn't play, and even knowing who I should and shouldn't play with. That's kind of been the thing. I don't just sit down to any table anymore. I don't just sit down to any game anymore. I kind of I'll see someone, okay, quick, let me look up that game. Is that something I'd be interested in? Yeah, I think I can handle this. I'll have a seat. So that's definitely what has changed as far as how I approach the hobby. And up lastly, actually, is Penny, who asked me what my favorite game is to play with my family. I did have to think about this one. I do love stuff that just gets us spending time together, laughing and having a good time. I chatted about Cockroach Poker last week. That's not my favorite game by by any stretch, but I do just love how that made us laugh. And that, to me, is one of the greatest things. I mean, I just love making people laugh. I love that type of interaction with my family. And so I went with Robot Quest Arena on this one. This is one where my daughter really loves it because she gets to whoop up on mom and dad. She doesn't really get in trouble. We can all hit each other with hammers and flamethrowers and missiles, and there's no real hard feelings. And my daughter did learn that if you gang up too hard, it's going to come back to you. There is such a thing as retribution. So she's kind of learned that the hard way. But that's just one of the games that we have a lot of fun with. And as far as my overall family goes, I mentioned things like Green Team Wins, although I would actually love a not safe for work version of that, because just when my brother and my sister and I, one of my sisters and I get together, it is not safe for work, but we have a ton of fun. And my parents even, I don't know how they have evolved to this point over the years, but they're just right there in the thick of it. And they just participate and they have fun. Anomia, same thing, just a ton of fun. Those are definitely games I like to play with my family. All right, that is question of the week. Let's go ahead and move into recently played games. Okay, recently played games. I didn't really think I was going to get that much gaming in this past week. I knew last weekend that I would be going down to South Carolina to get Douglas. I did pack along some solo games to go to the cabin with, and I also did get a couple games in over the weekend. But first of all, 2 weeks ago, I already kind of quickly mentioned this. I played Rocketmen Target Jupiter with my wife here at the house. This is an expansion to the game of Rocketmen by Martin Wallace. This is published by Phalanx, which I don't think is the greatest publisher out there, but this really is one of my favorite games. It is a deck building game set in space, sort of modern era, and you're trying to build this deck of cards, but the deck of cards lets you, is sort of your vessel to do the other things within the game. Excuse me. So that deck of cards is letting you build your rockets. It's letting you pick the missions that you're using or that you're going to fulfill to get to the orbit of Earth, the Moon, or the Mars. It also provides your money. They're multi-use cards. So you can either use the card as a rocket component, you can use it as a mission in some cases, or you can use it as currency to be able to install these components in your rocket. I'm not going to go super deep into this right now because I'm actually thinking I might do a review of this. But this adds, obviously, Jupiter as a place that you can go to, but it also adds these extra research and development tracks along the side of the board. You can sort of purchase the next level of these tracks just like you would purchase cards from the market of the deck building aspect. And those tracks will let you gain extra thrust onto your rockets. It will also let you gain these, I believe they're called scientific tags, and you're using those to kind of help you along to these various objectives, because when you're trying to go to a mission location, you have like a certain number of spaces along this path that you have to get to, wherever you want to go to, whether again, the Moon, Mars, whatever. These tags let you kind of start a little ways up that path, and then there is literally a push your luck mechanism. One of my least favorite mechanisms in games, but I really enjoy it here because you're flipping over these cards to just go additional spaces. You only get to flip over so many cards. There are zeros and ones in that deck, so you can completely fail a mission. Your rocket basically blows up. You Elon Musk all over the place, and you have to either start your mission all over again. You can abort ahead of time. You'll lose a couple of cards from your rocket, but not everything. And so again, it's this combination of engine building, push your luck, but with a lot of mitigation, and this adds more mitigation to that. It also adds these really unique cards that get seeded into the deck, and these things are wonky. They add all kinds of just new things that you can do with these cards. Again, they're even additional multi-purpose than the regular cards in the game, so they can be used as money. They can be used for a in-game effect. They can be basically trash for the game to give you a very, very powerful ability one time. Anyways, I really, really enjoyed this. I wasn't really surprised that I enjoyed this, but this is one of those expansions where they definitely improved upon the game. Those R&D tracks really give you some new things to work towards. They really make the game a bit more approachable. They kind of mitigate some of that bad luck where it's not even bad luck. It's really if one player kind of starts buying up all the cards. If you get a little starved out of that market of buying cards in your deck, which is not a good thing to do, this kind of helps you slightly bypass some of that. It's not going to let you get away with all of it, but it can help you because you can't get blocked on these tracks. You can only get blocked on the last space, which only gives you points. So I really enjoyed this. I played it with my wife. It was her first time playing it, which I did not realize, and she clobbered me in this game, which surprised both of us, quite frankly, because I played this a lot of times. Really, really enjoy the game, but I was really trying to kind of explore these different aspects of the expansion, and she was just kind of like going for points, and she did really, really well. And she really enjoyed it. In fact, I made a joke about, we need a rematch on this now, and she's like, okay. Sounds good. So, Rocketmen, Target Jupiter, expansion to the Rocketmen game. Really, really a good game. Sort of a hidden gem, if you will, from Martin Wallace. Okay, then I went to the cabin, played a couple of solo games. I'm going to come back to that one. The first one that I wanted to delve into, I've chatted about this one a little bit already, was Deep Shelf by Richard Keene. I'm not going to go deep into this. I know I say that all the time and I talk way too damn long, but I still think that this is a good game. I have not had great experiences with it, but I really do think that there's a great game here. This does a lot of the stuff that I really enjoy. There is sort of it's not really a tech tree, but there is technology that you can research, you can sort of pay for to give yourself some added bonuses. They are limited, so I don't know that I would like this as much in a 3 or 4 player game, because you can just get shut out of something. In a 2 player game, that can still happen, but not as much. There is, this sort of efficiency puzzle idea in that, okay, I need to do this action, but I want to try and build it up so it's as powerful of an action as I can get it to be before I fire it off. But this game makes that really, really hard to pull off. It makes it really, really difficult to time things out to do it in the right order. And you have these turns where you feel like, I'm just going to play this card and all I get's $1. But it's because you're not ready to fire off the next action. And I have found that, I know I talked about this in a recent episode where I just kind of felt like I got stuck. So I did post that on Board Game Geek. I was kind of asking for strategies and suggestions. Richard Keene himself jumped on and sort of, gave me some important tips and pointers and things to think about. And it was really helpful. I was going to try and set this up and play it again. The week just kind of got away from me. But again, as I mentioned earlier in the question of the week, this is the game that I really think I want to crack it open. I really want to figure this one out. And I was even telling my buddy Daniel, I feel like this is harder than Voidfall. I feel like it does some of the things that Voidfall does, but without the absurd setup time, without the just endlessly deep box of components that you probably don't really need, without all the fluff added rules. This game is fairly streamlined, I think, in its approach, but it is just so hard to figure out. And I want to figure this one out. So that is Deep Shelf. I'm going to try and dig into that solo mode a little bit more because there's a campaign for it, all kinds of stuff. And I might even try and see if Daniel wants to try out the co-op mode, which is what the campaign mode uses. Let me see. Oh, the other game I played a couple times over the week at the cabin was some more of Legacy of You. And this one's kind of funny, and I think I've chatted about this one enough in the past already, but I am loving this game. The only thing that's really, really weird about it is that I'm starting to feel like it is too easy. And there's not a built-in difficulty. There's not like there's not like a player-chosen difficulty. Like, if you want it to be harder, leave this out or add this in or whatever. No, this, as you win each game of it, it adds in more stuff that is supposed to make the game harder. I have now won 3 games, lost 1 game, I believe. I think it's something like that. Maybe I've won 4. Anyways, and I keep thinking, oh, this is it. This is the game that's going to break me. This next one's I'm not going to be able to do it. But the game that I lost gave me a really, really powerful bonus. And I have been riding that way every game since. And so part of me almost kind of wants to lose another game so that I can see what it's going to give me next. But man, I just keep absolutely clobbering these barbarians. The only thing I did find out is because I sat down through the rulebook literally over the weekend after I got home. And I was like, I've got to be doing something wrong here. There's something that I'm missing. I even had a dream in which I figured out what I was doing wrong, except for that dream was bonkers. There was nothing in the game about what I was dreaming about, so I don't know what the hell that came from. But anyways, I sat and I read the rules again, and I was like, nah, the only thing that I realized I was doing wrong is that you're sort of stacking these cards up above your board. You start off with all like citizens or townsfolk, and then you have one barbarian. And if this row is ever completely filled with barbarians, you lose. I thought that it was if you didn't have any more room for barbarians, you lost. So I thought that 8 was the number that would cause you to lose. No, 7 is the number that causes you to lose. You have to have at least one townsfolk at the end of the round. Now, I don't think I ever got to 7 and considered myself a winner because I just kind of kept killing barbarians because it was fun. Oh, it might be a freak show. Anyways, so I don't think I lost a game. I don't think that I won a game that I should have lost, if that makes sense. But anyways, I still just feel like it's easy, but I absolutely love playing it. I don't know how much I'm going to want to keep coming back to it after I finalize the game. And of course, every playthrough of it is pretty similar. But I'm just having an absolute blast with it. I kind of want to bring out my copy of Legacy of You. Okay, over the weekend, I was invited to a different big game night. One of my buddies here in town has an event every year where he brings in his friends from all over the country. It's a really, really cool thing that he gets to do with his buddies. And I didn't realize that was happening Saturday. I got invited to it. I thought they were just kind of a couple friends getting together. No, it was his annual event, which was cool. But I was literally invited. They were like, would you please come and play this game? And that is The Age of Atlantis by Eldorado Games. Now, if you know me, and if you have seen my top 100 out on the Dice Tower, you know that this is my number one game. And it is one of those things where I don't like playing it as much. And the reason for that is that I'm afraid that it's going to fall. I'm afraid that I'm going to have a bad play of it, and I'm going to get pissed off, and I'm not going to like it anymore, and I'm going to kind of like be miserable. I mean, it's like the bigger they are, the harder they fall, right? So every time I get asked to play this, which honestly isn't that often, but it's like, yeah, sure. I mean, I do still love the game, but man, I don't want to not love the game. I had a good playthrough of it. I didn't win, but I had a really good playthrough. I had a really good time with this. We played it 3-player. I got to play as the blue faction. I can't remember their name, but they're the ones who kind of get to manipulate the Poseidon deity in the middle of the board. And so I had a good time with this. I really love sort of feeling the theme of this. I sort of love the, okay, well, mechanically you're going here and you just do this thing, but thematically this is what's actually happening in the game, and I really, really enjoy it. This game has everything for me. It is a worker placement game with 80-something spots that you can go to, and you're going to pick up your workers each round and put them back out. So you're typically going to be revisiting the same spaces, but it has this open world feel to it. It's kind of a city building game, kind of a town building game. There is an actual tech tree to this. There is absolutely that progression of, okay, early on I can only do a little bit of damage, and then eventually I build this big ass myth and I jump in it and I just go kicking ass all over town. And that is a ton of fun. The resource management aspect of it is a lot of fun. Teaching the factions to their players is a lot of fun because I get to say, well, you guys are the jerks who tax everybody and then force like aid packages on people as a way to feed yourself a ton of points, you jerks. And then you're the town drunk who just wants to go to the tavern and brag about everything that you can do or that you've done. And I just love teaching that to people. I love sort of getting into character and explaining who are you really and how do you kind of want to play this game based on the faction that you have. Every play of this has been fairly different. This time I barely broke. I got a little high into the 100-something points. I didn't break 200, which I've certainly done before. But anyways, I just love this game. I really, really wish that this designer hadn't become such a butthole and kind of leave a bunch of people high and dry without their copies of this. He has another game that he's never finished out on Kickstarter, probably just kind of vanished, and everyone kind of hates him. And I get it. I do get it. But this is just such a great game, The Age of Atlantis. Alrighty, one more, and I already kind of mentioned this one as well. I've kind of talked about everything here, haven't I? Planet Unknown, the Supermoon expansion. Hey, Katie and Greg. Lid's on upside down. Like I said, polyomino game. The biggest thing with this is that it is all simultaneous play. So you can play this game 2 players up to 6 players. It is almost the exact same length of time because you sort of spin this Lazy Susan in front of you. Each of you has a marker facing that Lazy Susan, and wherever the active player chooses to stop it in front of their marker, you then have a what's called a depot, or sort of a pizza wedge of this Lazy Susan facing you, and you get to pick one of the 2 pieces that are in that wedge. And that's it. You put it on the planet in front of you. This expansion adds a moon. You've got rovers that you're driving around your planet trying to pick up little bits of asteroid that will sometimes come down with the tiles that you're placing on the moon. You can also get asteroids, but then on the moon, you're moving a laser around the orbit of this planet and zap frying those asteroids, which I had a ton of fun with little stupid sound effects and just overacting. Me? Who would have thunk? Anyways, this didn't really add a whole bunch of new stuff, but there are a couple of variants in the base game that my wife and I did delve into. There are these event cards that you can sort of, you reveal one each round after every player has had a turn. You reveal the next card, and at least I think that's how it works. The rulebook is not great in this, but we played, there's like green cards and yellow cards and red cards. So we did mostly greens and yellows. I didn't do any of the meaner red cards. Even some of the yellow ones they kind of giveth and taketh away. The green ones are just all beneficial, and then the red ones just kind of smack you. And I was I'm going to mess with that. We also played with some of the asymmetrical planets and the asymmetrical factions. And they were pretty neat. It was neat how just a couple of little tweaks in the rules really does make you feel like it's a very different game. The supermoon also didn't really seem like it added that much, but we had way higher scores. This was the first game I've ever seen where basically I completely pegged all 5 of my resource meters, which is a new in-game trigger. I didn't know that was possible in this game. But with the supermoon giving you some extra places to put tiles, it gives you some extra opportunities to score, move those tracks up. I had a lot of fun with this one. It's a neat game. I did see a little bit more swing in the scores with this game than in the past. So I've had a lot of times where players have finished this game 85, 86, and 87 points. I think this time it was 92 to 83, if I remember. So higher scores, like I said, but maybe not quite as tight, at least in this one playthrough. So that may have just been a sort of a one-time thing. Anyways, that is Planet Unknown Supermoon. All right, one new thing to share with you guys. All right, before I wrap up the show here, I had an idea for another segment that I'd like to try and do here on the show. This is inspired from some conversations I've had from some other viewers here on the channel and also some local friends of mine. Talking about the whole tabletop toolbox idea, the theme, the core idea behind this show and the channel was, let's say you go into a shop and someone says, what can I help you with? What's the matter with your car? What can I do for you? And I want to try and do that here with the channel. So what I want is folks to send in questions that they want some help with. This isn't a question for me to answer. This isn't about me. This isn't, what's your favorite this? What do you think about that? It's more of a, hey, I'd like to get some feedback on this game. Maybe I'm not doing well at this game. How can I get better at it? Maybe I'm looking to buy a gift for someone. What game would you recommend? Or we're looking for the next game for, my wife and I. What should we get? That kind of stuff. And what I want to do is pick 1 or 2 of these each week. Just, sort of keep it light and answer some questions, and maybe we can even get some participation from other viewers here on the channel. Again, this isn't about me. It's how can I help, this community here on the channel. So send in your comments, your questions, through the general comments on YouTube, or you can email them to me at tabletoptoolbox@gmail.com. You can use the facebook.com/tabletoptoolbox page to post there if you would like. And like I said, I'll pick 1 or 2 of these a week and just kind of have a casual conversation to help folks out. All right, next thing to do real quick is the question of the week for next week. I want to know, where do you buy your games from? Do you buy them online? Do you have a retailer that you like to use? Is there a friendly local game store that you like to visit? And if there's one you'd like to plug, you can certainly do so now. Also, how often do you purchase games? And maybe even what is the next game that you're thinking of buying? That's what I would like to chat about next week. All right, listen, there is just one more thing to do here in this episode, and I can't do it without two very special guests introducing my family, my wife and daughter, Ashley and Melanie. Now, you have seen them in some of my videos. They're not in all of my videos, but they are definitely there behind the scenes. They have either helped me with some stupid skit, they've handed me a cat, they have closed the door in my face. Who knows? There's always something that they are a part of. Maybe they have helped me play a game. This one just reminded me to plug in my microphone a few moments ago. So, you know, they're always involved in these videos, and I certainly could not do this show, and this channel would not exist without these two, that is for sure. But I also want to thank all of you, the audience of this fantastic channel, and this show has been a ton of fun for me to put together. It will continue to soldier on for as long as, well, they can put up with my nonsense. So I think it's time for us to bring out a little treat. What do you think? Hold that cloth. We will slide this here. Oh, look at this. I have a top-down camera. There we go, folks. Board games and cake. You've seen it here. So, yeah, I think this is a great time to go ahead and wrap up this show. I want to thank all of you for watching, for being a part of this, and let's make it another fun year, all right? On behalf of everyone here at Tabletop Toolbox, cheers. Let's get some cake. Never thought we'd be sitting here around this table eating cake, did you? Hey, Mel, is it cake?
I thought it was a toolbox.
Dad, your tiltscape was off.
My tiltscape. I hate it when my tiltscape is off. Nobody gets that.
I'm hoping one person might. Cake!